we doing for, okay, we're good for sound. Okay, I think we're ready to kick it off. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending this very special event. My name's Chad Collins. I'm the MP for Hamilton East Stony Creek, and I'll be your MC for this afternoon. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're gathered here today on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Mississauga peoples. It's an honor to be present for this announcement, and it's an extraordinary commitment, as you'll learn from the Minister later, as it relates to another investment here in Hamilton for housing and affordable housing. I'd like to let the media know who are joining us today that speakers will be available for a Q&A session following the speaking portion of the announcement, along with an opportunity for a group photo to be taken at the end. For me, this is a bit of a personal event. Some of you know that I lived in this neighborhood for many years as a young child, and I actually lived in an affordable housing unit owned and managed by City Housing Hamilton. So I lived at 2 Oriole Crescent, and I lived in an affordable housing complex that's certainly not too far from here, but still stands today. And many of those units in 2 Oriole are 50 to 60 years old. They are in need of renovation and repair, and I think are very representative of much of the housing stock that we see, not just here in Hamilton, but across the country. And affordable housing providers like City Housing Hamilton struggle to maintain those units. That unit that I lived in as a young boy in the 1970s, we'd probably find today that there are portions of the roof that need to be repaired. The windows are probably in need of repair. And so many of the major building components, not just at 2 Oriole Crescent, but with many of the units that City Housing and other providers maintain, are in need of some renovation and repair and upkeep, just like our homes and apartments would be in the same situation in our own personal lives. And so the investments that we make, all levels of government make, are an important step to ensure that we are maintaining that housing stock in a state of good repair and ensuring that our residents have a good quality of life. And I raised 2 Oriole Crescent today in the McQuestion neighborhood because the units at 2 Oriole were much like those managed by City Housing here on this site. Those units were 50 or 60 years old, and City Housing needed to make a decision in terms of whether we renovate and repair those units or we start over with something a bit more ambitious. And today's announcement is a result of years of consultation and planning from the tenants who lived here prior, to City Housing Board, to the City of Hamilton, who is the owner of the property and those units and is the sole shareholder, and of course conversations that happen with other levels of government, including our government. And so I think it's important to note that our national housing strategy to date has provided over $80 million in not just renovation and repair, but new housing units. And so we see the building here these are new units that replace those that were once here on site and provide affordable rental opportunities for those people who sit on the city's affordable housing wait list. And we know that we have a crisis situation in our country, and that extends here to Hamilton. There are over 6,000 people that sit on the city's affordable housing wait list. In Toronto, that number is over 80,000, and that number continues to grow. And so investments like the ones that we make today, in partnership with the City of Hamilton, in partnership with the City Housing Hamilton Board, and in partnership with the private sector, is an important one because it goes a long way to address that affordable housing crisis, and it helps us with that long affordable housing wait list that we struggle to accommodate. I think it's important for me because of my wearing my other hat, my councillor hat, and my former hat at City Housing Hamilton as the president up until my time of being elected at the federal level. I just want to say a couple of thank yous before I introduce the minister, and it's important for me because it was a real team effort that made this happen. First and foremost, I want to thank City Housing Hamilton. We have Sean Botham here, who is the internal lead. Adam Swedlin, who's taken over as CEO of City Housing Hamilton. Formerly Tom Hunter, who's no longer with us. He's in the City of Toronto right now. But they, from start to finish, made this happen in terms of ensuring that the tenants, first and foremost, were taken care of. And then, of course, we have this building and the property and everything that goes with it, thanks in large part to their hard work. And so I wanted to thank the organization for everything that you've done over the years to make this happen. Thank you, Sean. And I think it's important to recognize, one of my best friends and former councillor, Sam Marula, who was the driving force politically behind this. And while Sam is no longer on council, I know he follows this project closely. And if he could be here today, he would. And Sam, as we all know, is a champion of many things. But for me, when I think of Sam's efforts in the community, he looked for vulnerable populations to support in terms of people with disabilities, seniors, those people who are in need of housing, our shelter support system. And so I have to publicly thank Sam for his efforts. It was his idea, in fact, to look at the property that we have here. And his question, I think, that he said aloud publicly was, can we do better on this site? Can we provide more affordable housing? And the answer was, of course, yes. And so I want to thank Sam, certainly for his efforts and all of the hard work that he put into this. I think it's important to thank the City of Hamilton in terms of former Mayor Eisenberger and my former council colleagues on the 2014 to 2018 term. And we can extend those thank yous to those who picked up the torch. Councillor Wang will speak later, as well as Mayor Horvath, who couldn't join us here today, and the existing City Council, who've shown that they are as committed as the previous council to affordable housing initiatives here in Hamilton. And I think we certainly have a great challenge ahead of us. But the partnerships and the teamwork that we have here in Hamilton, I think, lends itself to ensuring that we have additional projects. And you'll hear about those additional projects here today from the Minister. And then, of course, I think not to be left out are our private partners. And so we have an affordable housing crisis in Canada. Governments, all three levels of government, will not be able to do this on our own in terms of building us out of this problem. The supply issue that we have for those people looking for affordable rents or affordable home ownership is an issue that all three levels of government need to work on collectively, but in partnership with the private sector. And I know that there are segments in our community, unfortunately, that demonize the private sector in terms of development is a bad thing, and I thankfully those voices are few and far between. My approach has always been looking for partners and to see how we leverage those partnerships to ensure that we cross the finish line on projects like the one that we have here. And so I want to thank Nick Carnicelli, Sergio Mancia, and of course David Horwood from Effort Trust, who's not here today, for their efforts. They've been in on this day one. They've taken a bit of a risk in terms of, this was a contaminated site in part. There were some challenges in terms of some of the densities and the size of the property and how we navigate that. I won't hold it against you, Sergio, for tearing down my elementary school as part of this project. But I think the product that we have here today is a testament to their hard work and their vision and the fact that they are making this investment on behalf of the place where they live. They are Hamiltonians. And so they're investing in their community with what they provided as part of this partnership. And so I can't forget to thank the residents. The residents who lived here, many of whom are returning, were a big part of this from day one. And when Sam floated the idea, he did that in concert with McQuestion residents who lived on this site and in the vicinity. And of course, City Housing Hamilton made the commitment that for those that wanted to return, that would be an option. And so I think it's important to thank those residents, especially Pat Reed, who was a board member on City Housing Hamilton, who was actually a resident here. I think she's already moved into the building ahead of today's announcement. And so special thanks to Pat Reed, who was an integral part of the planning process and a part of getting us to where we are today. So while all of that said, in the theme of a team approach, I'd like to introduce one of my local teammates, Minister Tassi, to say a few words. Minister.
So good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous. And thank you, Chad, for that history. I think it's really helps us appreciate the significance of what's being announced today and the partnerships that have been created. And for me, that's always the way to go. I'm really happy to be joining you here today for this special announcement. We are actually taking a major step forward in providing everyone in Ontario with a safe and affordable place to call home. We all share the goal of ensuring that everyone in Canada has a safe and affordable home. And we've done a lot of work in housing, and we are continuing to get the job done for citizens of Hamilton and Ontario. And that's why I'm thrilled to be here with you, continuing the work and making another important housing announcement. And I'm going to get right to it. I'm pleased to announce that the Government of Canada has provided $7.1 million in federal funding through the National Housing Co-Investment Fund for the creation of 103 affordable housing units for the Roxborough project, and over $10.8 million in funding through the third round of the Rapid Housing Initiative for the 1620 Main Street project that will create 42 much-needed housing units for women and their children. These projects are a perfect example of the type of housing that the National Housing Strategy is building. Housing that meets the needs of the most vulnerable across the country. In addition to this, I am also very pleased to announce that the Government of Canada is providing a $115 million low-interest repayable loan through the Government of Canada's Rental Construction Financing Initiative for the construction of the Roxton located at 16 and 22 Roxanne. This building will provide much-needed 352 rental units for women and their children. This is a tremendous help to the area and relieves the pressure on the rental market, as Chad so eloquently provided in his opening remarks. Together, these projects announced today demonstrate that the federal government is taking a holistic approach addressing housing issues across the housing spectrum and working very much in collaboration with partners. I would like to thank all of our partners for their commitment and collaboration in transforming projects like these from ideas into reality, and for their tireless efforts to support the most vulnerable members of our communities. Let's continue to work together to ensure all of Hamilton, Ontario, and Canada has a safe and secure place for every person to call home. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister Tassi, and now I'd like to call upon my friend and colleague, MP Lisa Hefner.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous, and thanks for the introduction, Chad. You know, Chad talks about what he thinks about from his experience formerly with City Housing Hamilton. I always think when I come to these announcements now about my history as a journalist, and some of my, the most memorable moments were watching people who had previously been unhoused find a home for the first time in supportive housing, finally have a place to call their own, a fridge where they can keep their food, a door with a lock on it where they can leave and come back and their food is still there. And you see the transformation that comes over these people and the hope they have for their future and the sense of community they build among their neighbors. And it's truly some of the most beautiful moments I ever experienced in my journalism career. And so it's really gratifying now to be part of a government that is supporting these initiatives. Our government is passionate about housing. I know the same holds true for everyone who's here today. We all share the goal of ensuring that everyone across Canada has a safe and affordable place to call home. Just take Bill Beaton. He's a veteran who now has a new home in Ottawa. For several years, the former weapons technician drifted from job to job, experiencing health issues, opioid addiction, homelessness, and now he's a resident at Veterans House. Bill has turned his attention to helping others who are in a similar situation. And that new home is life-changing for Bill. And it underlines what our national housing strategy is all about, helping the people of Ontario and Canada with a safe and affordable place to call home. It's about helping Canadians build the life they deserve in a home that meets their needs. It's also about investing, not just in the health and well-being of Canadians, but in their futures. C'est pourquoi je suis ravie d'être ici avec tous vous aujourd'hui pour poursuivre le travail en faisant une autre annonce importante liée au logement. Aujourd'hui, nous annonçons 3 projets très importants, comme l'a dit plus tôt la députée Tassi. Le gouvernement du Canada a investi plus de 18 millions de dollars pour créer 145 unités de logement abordables dans le cadre de 2 projets résidentiels qui feront en sorte que les résidents d'antan auront accès de logements sûrs, abordables et adaptés à leurs besoins. En outre, le gouvernement du Canada crée également 352 logements à loyer inférieur au marché pour les femmes et leurs enfants par l'entremise de l'initiative financement de la construction de logements locatifs. Filomena talked about this earlier. The Government of Canada is creating 352 below market rent units for women and their children through the Government of Canada's Rental Construction Financing Initiative. This is so important. I was just speaking with the YWCA this morning about how many single mothers and how many women are still recovering from the pandemic, which was so tough on them. And so these targeted investments are really important to helping all of us recover from, those years of pandemic that we went through. The impact of this investment can't be understated. It will ensure that those who need the safety and stability of home have an opportunity at a new beginning and a fresh start. C'est ce que ces nouveaux logements accompliront. And before I end, I'd like to once again thank everyone here for your continued advocacy for more affordable housing. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Lisa. And our next speaker is representing the City of Hamilton, and a lot of activity now as we switch gears from a riding perspective to a ward perspective. A lot of activity going on in Ward 4, and so today's announcement certainly shines a light on what's happening here at the Roxborough site. But an important part of today's announcement, as Minister Tassi said earlier, is the rapid housing round 3 development that we're going to see now at the Queenston Traffic Circle. And so it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ward 4 Councillor Tammy Wang to tell us a little bit more about what we're going to see on that site and here. Councillor Wang.
Thank you. Thank you to MP Chad Collins. Thank you to MP Minister Filomena Tassi and MP Hefner for being here. I also want to thank all of the different people that have actually made this work, and especially City Housing Hamilton under the leadership of Adam Swedland and Sean Botham, our private sector partners, Nick from Carriage Gate and Sergio from Urban Core. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for this amazing and wonderfully exciting project. I also would be remiss not to acknowledge all of the hard work from previous council, specifically my predecessor, Councillor Sam Marula, on all of his hard work. And I'm so pleased to see that this partnership has finally come to fruition, and that we've been talking about this Roxborough project since 2016. And it has been a significant amount of public consultation, working with the tenants, working with the city in order to ensure that this actually comes forward. I am so incredibly proud of this community, of my community, for bringing this forward. We are working really hard on making housing as a right for all of our people. It's through incentives like the Access to Home Ownership Grant and the rental housing loans. These are the programs that fast-tracked over 600 new residential units right here in Ward 4. We've increased the density from this site from 165 units per hectare to 254. But the work is not done. We still have a lot to go. Council is committed to working hard with both our private sector partners and all levels of government in order to ensure that we are creating housing that people can move into and people can thrive in. This council has just approved a loan to City Housing Hamilton, and I am absolutely just pleased to hear from Minister Tassi that our RHI loan, the RHI grant has come to fruition, as well as the additional funding for those 350 units of rental housing that's coming onto this site. As you all know, we are in a housing crisis, and we are not alone in Canada, Ontario. This is something across the world we are dealing with. There are over 6,000 Hamiltonians on the wait list today waiting for affordable housing, and another 1,600 Hamiltonians that are sleeping rough tonight. These are our neighbors, and it is our responsibility to ensure that housing is a right and that everyone has a roof over their head. We've committed, this council has committed over $70 million of housing through our 2023 budget, and I left council today earlier where we spoke more about affordable housing and about encampments and about ensuring that we have the wraparound supports for our community. But with the challenges we are facing today, I am optimistic. I am optimistic because Hamilton is home, and we are here to take care of each other, and this is how we'll build a successful future. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. And our next speaker, longtime city employee, worked in our housing services division for many years and showed tremendous leadership, so much leadership and talent that Toronto plucked him from the city of Hamilton for a short, brief time, and then we were able to lure him back to the city. And so it's my pleasure to introduce the CEO of City Housing Hamilton, Adam Sweetland. Adam?
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Minister Tassi, MP Collins, MP Hefner, and of course Councillor Wang, who incidentally sits on our board as our treasurer at City Housing Hamilton. So this is a great opportunity for me. I'm here actually delivering remarks on behalf of the president, who was unable to attend today. So if I'm a little rusty, it's because I wasn't expecting to do this. Roxborough Park is a very innovative and vibrant housing community, and it's a really great example of how partners from multi-sectoral partners can come together to construct high-quality, impactful, and sustainable homes for diverse and multi-generational households. This beautifully designed building features 103 units of 1, 2, 3, and 4-bedroom units that individuals and families will be able to call home. And I might add that 20% of the units in this building are accessible. At City Housing Hamilton, our strategic plan really underpins that everything we do is for the benefit of our tenants. And so when we look at a project like this, it's not only beautifully designed, and I think we could take a moment to appreciate that, it's also a sustainable project that contributes to other outcomes. This building is built to passive house standards. So it is designed to have ultra low energy and to be very well insulated. By investing now into that standard, we will maintain lower operating costs and ensure affordability long into the future. This community revitalization, which was of Roxborough Park, represents an investment of over $29 million, which is made possible by our partners and by, of course, the federal government grant. I want to extend our appreciation and thank the federal government and the City of Hamilton, our funding partners, as well as our development partners at Roxborough Park, Inc., for their support and collaboration on this important investment. And as MP Collins said, I was involved in this project at the very inception. I left and I got to come back and take part in the finished product. So it's very special to me to see this come together today. This is a great achievement for City Housing Hamilton, a proud partnership in which the partners can be quite proud, and a groundbreaking revitalization of a multi-income neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam. And last but not least, I would like to ask Mr. Sergio Mancia from Urban Core Developments to speak about the project and the investment that's being made today from our private sector partners. Sergio.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, I'm not mic savvy, unfortunately. Thank you. Thank you. The vision, the will, the commitment, the implementation, and the results. Good afternoon. I'm Sergio Mancia. I'm president of Urban Core and Roxborough Park Developments, and on behalf of my partners with Roxborough, Mr. Nick Carnicelli to my right, of Carriage Gate Home and Legacy Constructors, and Mr. David Horwood of Effort Real Estate Corporation. David is out of the country and sends his regrets. We welcome all of you to Roxborough Park Development, one of the most significant and largest residential infill development projects in the history of Hamilton. Greetings and thank you to our guests, MP Collins, Minister Tassi, MP Hefner, Councillor Tammy, unfortunately Councillor Nan's not here, and former Councillor Marula, and of course municipal staff and our friends at the federal level. Thank you for coming. I didn't expect this wind, sorry. In 2016, I stood here before 13 acres with vacant schools, formerly, of course, MP Collins' elementary school, where I understood he actually graduated with honors. This is amazing, and look at him now, right? Along with 104, I believe, existing city housing units, which were well beyond their best days and simply shouting for renewal. An East End neighborhood with parks, public trails, ice rinks, golf courses, libraries, churches, places of worship, community centers, schools, public transit, GO Access, future LRT, and land use planner and developers' delightful blank canvas, I would refer to. This was not, in our eyes, regentrification, but revitalization. And we're here today, now standing, to add 1,300 residential units in need of housing, creating a thriving mix of economic community of municipal housing, new rentals, a CIP program for first-time home buyers, a market units at affordable pricing for Hamiltonians and newcomers alike, something that the City of Hamilton has done since inception as a city, welcoming all. The vision was embraced by Councillor Marula. I think it's been added by MP Collins, along with my partner Dave, Nick. We all looked at this and never looked back. We certainly had our challenges, but we kept striving forward, and we knew it was the right thing to do. The Roxborough community exemplifies the collaboration efforts with the City of Hamilton, the Province of Ontario, and the federal government. It required inspiration across all levels of government, along with our financial lenders, and more important, our team of experts and consultants. Utilizing the $150 million that Minister Tassi has referred to of federal funds, the Roxton, which was referred to, is 2 rental apartment buildings at 16 and 22 Roxanne, and will bring, as mentioned, 352 much-needed rental apartment units to Hamilton. The Roxton is the combined efforts and result of CMHC programs, working with the City of Hamilton to establish a CIP, which is a community improvement program, which most of you know is downtown Hamilton, but we were able to stream it down to the East End, which we thank Council for their decision on that. And this allowed the rental to come into fruition. We utilized every tool in the toolbox, and we're now using it to build these units. A special thanks to you, CMHC and CMLS, for your support. The Roxton would not have been a viable project in today's challenging market without you. Not only is this development affordable, but it's also sustainable. The CHCH Roxanne apartment, as noted, is a passive house construction, an amazing achievement by our partners at Legacy Constructors. I must stress, they completed this project on time, on budget, and an amazing feat during COVID. And I want to say thank you, Nick, and the community is embracing this. A special thanks to James, who's not here, Cameron, and Rebecca Rogers is here, for managing this project in those trying times. We'd also like to give a very special thanks to our team of experts, lawyers, consultants, planners, engineers, architects, and other consultants, contractor trades, and more importantly, the hard workers on the ground, whom helped put this entire project together. It cannot be done without you. Thank you. Roxborough Park, a private and public partnership that demonstrates it can work, even when can work only when things come together. It's a model that we can all duplicate across the city, across this province, and across Canada. I cannot stress how much that's important. It's a privilege. This project is a privilege, and we're proud of it, to be part of let's call it a legacy. And we look back, and hopefully in 3 or 4 years when this is all built, we're going to see new families who take advantage of the CIP program, people living in the rental, of course, living in Hamilton housing, and creating, again, a mixed-use community. Thank you so much for being part of this special day. On behalf of myself, David, Nick, to our friends at the federal level, thank you for your assistance for the $115 million. It will be spent well. Thank you. And for everyone to see the vision, the will, the commitment, the implementation, and seeing the result. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergio. And I guess today's theme was partnerships and collaboration. And so for everyone here who's part of whatever team you represent today, again, thank you for assisting with the projects that we have here on site. That concludes the speeches for today, but we'll turn it over to a media Q&A, and we have our moderator ready to go to take the first questions.
Bonjour tout le monde. This begins our media portion for today's event. When you please step to the mic, we have one question, one follow-up, and please state your name and media outlet.
Hi, my name's Al Sweeney. I'm with CHCH. Can you help me with something, please? This huge development here is taking place. At what stage are you? What's been built? What still remains to be built? Could somebody explain that?
Sure. Serge, you want to take that in terms of Nick?
Thank you. I'm Nick Carnicelli. Thanks for the question. Currently, as you see behind us, are under construction 126 market townhomes. They were sold in late 2020. We've had some occupy is March and April. 38 of those units have occupied. We currently have next door to us the Roxton under construction, which is on its way back up. It's at the underground stage. In addition to that, there are another 74 back-to-back style townhomes that'll be built probably next year. And then there is another 597 condominium style homes that we're considering launching in the fall of this year. And I forgot to mention 38 freehold townhomes fronting on the two streets, Reed and the other. So altogether, Sergio said it's almost 1,300 units. I guess we're almost halfway through.
Okay.
Thank you.
So could you help me with one other thing? In the middle of this, what's the headline on what you're announcing today? What's the real significant factor?
I think the significant fact is, firstly, a building of this caliber, the Roxton building next door, is first of its kind, 350 units of rental in this very challenging market. This building that we're seeing here right now is super energy efficient, okay? Was a public-private partnership that was done that replaced existing townhomes to today, and it's a testament to, you know, what can be done.
Okay. And maybe you could deal with this, Nick. People trying to rent, they can't get rental accommodation in Hamilton. We've got
Yep.
those poor folks camped in tents around City Hall
Yep.
and elsewhere in the city. What does this say for them?
Well, it creates supply. You know, one of the requirements for this high level of RCFI financing for Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation has three tenets. Sustainability, okay, you have to meet targets. You have to meet affordability targets. And then what's the third? I'm forgetting now. Sustainability, affordability, energy efficiency, and accessibility, right? So we've achieved all of those above all those standards. So we're creating more rental housing supply, which I don't think in this area there hasn't been anything built in 30 or 40 years, right? Most of the rental housing stock that's in Hamilton is 60s and 70s era, right? And especially in this environment that we're in now with hyperinflation, high interest rates, high building costs, it's a very big challenge to see it, right? So in this building, there is a very small portion of market rental, but the majority of it's geared to income. In the CMHC build, the Roxton building that we're building, a high percentage of it is in the affordability criteria. So it's a big boost to the housing stock.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll let somebody else get it.
Thank you. Our next question is from Sarah Piesker from
If
CBC.
I could just add to that, Al, because I think that you're asking a question, and from the federal perspective, I'd like to just add a couple of comments. So the first point is that there's no question that collaboration is the key here. I mean, you see that so many partners have come together. Today's announcement from a federal perspective is a part of our national housing strategy. So the federal government has invested $82 billion in this strategy to ensure both the supply and the affordability piece. Today's announcement that we are making is an investment from the federal government of just over $133 million to create 497 units. In addition to that, there's the private piece that is adding additional pieces, but the federal government's investment comes from 3 programs: the National Housing Co-Investment Fund, the Rental Construction Financing Initiative, and RHI 3. So Hamilton was very fortunate to qualify in RHI 1 and 2, and as Tammy said, they have also qualified in RHI 3, which is that additional space that Chad talked about, which is in the traffic circle, which is going to create the 42 units for women and children.
I'm not sure who is the best for this, but I was wondering if someone could explain the breakdown of how the public-private partnership works and what's public and what's private and how much of each, I guess?
I don't know if, I think Adam, you're, yeah, and maybe Nick too.
So thank you for that question. That's a great question. I may turn to my partners because they were involved since the beginning, but I can tell you that this particular parcel of land was about 9 acres, I believe, that was originally all City Housing Hamilton. And this property was essentially spread out across those 9 acres. So the idea was to build a higher density form on a smaller piece and open up that land to be used for additional affordable housing in a mixed income neighborhood with private partners such as those from Roxborough Park.
So how many increased public units are we getting on the land?
So the entire site is actually 13 acres, and 9 of course is Hamilton Housing, and this particular block was kept in the ownership of the municipality, while the balance was acquired by Roxborough Park with various conditions and deliverables that myself and my partners had to adhere to as per council's direction and the needs. So the balance of what we refer to as the 8 acres, let's say, included a number of rentals and, of course, the CIP program, which is basically allows for new home buyers, not corporations. They cannot flip a unit for a year upon possession, and this is an encouragement for first-time home buyers. And what Nick was referring to behind us that's under construction, those are participants of the CIP. And as I delivered in my speech, there is a variety of different types. We also have some condominiums that will still be in the affordable range. So we've got all spectrums here, building a community, and that's what we really tried to achieve, is that when you're in the community, when it's all finished, said and done, there shouldn't be a differential of who's what.
So will there be an increase in affordable units here? I'm not sure if I got a number or a total.
Maybe is there
an increase to what was here before? I'm just asking how many we're gaining.
There was 104 units spread over 9 acres, plus somewhat of a school that's had its time. So there's 13 acres, and now we're putting 1,300. So
okay, so we're going from 103 right? affordable to 1,300 affordable. Okay, thank you.
Our next question is from Kevin Warner.
So I just wanted to understand the $32 million. That's new money from the rapid housing project. The $115 million, is that new money?
So today's announcement from the federal side, the contributions, the 7.1 plus is new money. 7.1 million for the National Housing Co-Investment Fund is new money. The 115 million loan is new money, and the 10.898 million for the RHI 3. It's all new money. I mean, it hasn't been announced yet. Some of it has been used for the construction of the site, but this money, it's the first time that it is actually being announced. So the total is 133 million from the federal government.
So the money has already flowed and it's been used in some parts.
Most of the money has. I think the latest site, the one that is being built at the traffic circle, I'm not sure about the flow of that money. but a lot of this money has been. So in terms of like the completion dates, the Roxborough, the 8 Roxon project, December 22nd, December 2022. But the 16 and 22 Roxon, the anticipated finish date is June 2024. And the 1620 Main Street, we don't have a finish date yet. But you can see that work is underway there. I know it's not, there's, you know what's good about this though? It's the partnerships. And that's what causes, I think, it's difficult in terms of knowing exactly who's contributing what. But the idea is it demonstrates that when we can work together, how much can be produced. So in addition to this, Serge and Nick have talked about the extra units that are also being provided with this project, but I'm just trying to outline the federal involvement with respect to the units.
That concludes today's media portion for today's event.
Perfect. Thank you. Very good.